Good morning everybody, or good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you're watching this. Good day. That might be a good way to start it in future. Good day everyone, how are we doing? First, before we get started today, drum roll for the first giveaway on the Health Buddy YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be giving away my vegan recipe pack. That's 50 plus plant-based recipes for you in your inbox for the first 10 people who comment below on this video. Comment whatever you want. I'm not interested when you comment. You could just say yes please. You could say your videos are amazing, say your videos are rubbish. You can say whatever you want, but if you just pop a comment down below, the first 10 people will be sent a copy of my vegan protein recipe pack. I'll get in touch with you, I'll get some details off you, and I'll ping it over via email. With just over 50 recipes in this recipe pack, I'm just going through a few on screen now that you can see. You can see the layout, you can see how good they are, how tasty they are. Everything's there, the shopping list, the weekly planner, the recipe pack as well. Super simple, super healthy. You know, I say they're simple. If I can do them, anyone can do them. And they're really, really good ways to bring a bit of variety to your vegan diet. So if that interests you, if that tickles your fancy, that ticks your boxes, go down, leave a comment below. And if one of the first 10, I'll send you a recipe pack. Now that's out the way, let's get this intro out the way and let's get on with these top 5 vegan proteins. So a quick overview of all 5 of these protein sources just before I get into number 1. And that is that, yes, there's lots of other protein sources out there if you want to go for like the faken, the sort of fake sausages and the meat that isn't meat but kind of looks like meat and stuff like that. If you want to go down that sort of frozen processed food route, absolutely fine. There's tons of protein sources for you. I've tried to stay to more natural sources today in the hope that you'll steer clear of the heavily processed foods. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 is rice. Now, I know you're going to think of rice, many people do, as very, very carby. And it is, 75% of rice is carbs. You're not going to get away from that. But what people don't realise is that it's also quite high in protein. If we look at people having, say, 20 grams of protein per meal, if you split your day up and you have like 20 grams with each main meal, so that's 60 grams, 20 with breakfast, 20 with lunch, 20 with dinner, and then your snacks, you have around about 5 to 10 grams of protein. Of course, this is just a ballpark figure for a generic client. Obviously, everyone is a little bit different, but let's go with them figures for now. If you had then 100 grams of rice with your dinner, on average you're having about 9 to 10 grams of protein there, so that's half your protein intake. If you was a meat eater, you'd then have your your chicken or your fish, that would bump it up, and there's your protein requirement. For vegans and for vegetarians, obviously we've got to add some other things onto the plate as well as the rice, but it's a great way to start. It's a great way to get that protein up, and not a lot of people realise how much protein is actually in rice. If you can go for the whole grain rice, brilliant, it's really going to help. But for now, yes, there's a bit of a disclaimer with all these proteins in that there is a kind of a side effect. If you was a meat eater and you ate just a chicken breast, it's mostly protein. There isn't really anything else in there other than protein. But when you have things like rice, the side effect of that is, if you like, for a vegan, that the bulk of the food is made up of another source. So in this case, rice, there's a lot of carbs in rice, okay? Yes, there's quite a good portion of protein, but the bulk of the food is carbs. So there's always a bit of an offset there where you have to kind of say, okay, I'm getting the protein in, but it's going to be a lot of carbs. Then when we come to something else, you might think, there's a lot of fat in that compared to the protein. High protein count, brilliant, but we're going to have to offset that and say, actually, there's quite a lot of fat in there as well. So if you're tracking your food, which I fully recommend, use the NutraCheck app if you can. That's brilliant. Really easy to check your food with that. I should say as well, this isn't sponsored by them. It's just something I really believe in and something I use all the time, so definitely check it out. And if you're tracking your food, you're going to have to take note of these things like the extra carbs that may be in the rice if you're going to get your protein up. If you're a guy and you want to have 200 grams of rice, bang. So with that in mind, saying that there's an offset and you always have to say, okay, there's a little bit of protein, but there's something else in there as well, brings me on to number 2, which is nuts and seeds. A great source of protein, but whereas the rice is largely made up of carbs, the nuts and seeds, of course, are obviously largely made up of fat. So yes, we're getting the protein in, and yes, again, it's a good percentage of protein per nut, per seed, but the fat quantity in there is also very high. So again, if you're tracking your food, your fat levels are going to go high. You're going to maybe stick to your protein requirements. If you had, a bit of rice and a few nuts and seeds and stuff like that, even like a bit of olive oil, great, you're getting the protein in. but the fat level is really, really high as a result. Okay, so number 3 is protein powder. This is out of the 5, the only one, if you like, that is, well, I say the only one, it's the one that's the least natural way of getting the protein in. Most people, you see them in the gym, they've got a protein shaker, and this one is, this one is so new. I haven't even used it yet. It's still all sealed, still got the bag in it. But you can go down this route of a protein shaker and you can just add some water to that, brilliant. And you can get something like this, which is a plant-based protein powder. It's generally come from things like rice and pea protein. Really, really good for you. And the good thing with this, whereas all the others, you have to kind of offset the protein with like a high carb content or a high fat content. If you get a really, really good one, there's minimal carbs in this, minimal fat. So you are actually getting a good hit of protein. Like I said, every meal you want to be aiming for 20 grams of protein. This has 21 grams of protein in it and only 1.1 grams of carbs and 1.7 grams of fat. So for just a pure protein hit, if you want to get the protein up without having the carb hit and the fat hit as well, this is the way to do it. Now, like I said, you could top this up with water. Fantastic. You can put this in, give it a good shake. Brilliant. What I suggest is, as I've done in other videos, getting something like a NutraCheck, getting a blender, get this in, get some water in, get some spinach in there, get some berries in there, get some good stuff in there. Maybe you might want to add something like a little bit of peanut butter if you've got some good vegan peanut butter and things like that. You've got to be careful with things like, you know, if you're new to being vegan, you might think, oh, peanut butter, you know, it's clean, it's vegan. You've got to be careful. They add things into this processed stuff, so it's always worth checking the label. Make sure you get good quality vegan products if you're going to add them in. But you could definitely make this taste a little bit better. Yes, you add things like peanut butter, you're going to add the fat content again, which you might not want to do. You might be having this just purely for a protein hit, which is great. But if you want to make it a bit more healthy, you can put some greens powder in, you can put the spinach in, you can put some berries in, a little bit of peanut butter. Brilliant. What a way to sort of supercharge this and give yourself a good start to the day, maybe. Right, the next one is beans. Now, fortunately, my little YouTube studio's in the kitchen, so I can go right behind, reach in the cupboard, and pick out some beans. Right, we've got chickpeas, we've got red kidney beans. Brilliant. What a source of protein. Again, quite high in carbs, but a brilliant source of protein. High in fibre as well, really, really good for you. I probably would be careful when you eat these. Try not to, if you're going to eat a lot of these, don't be around anyone for a good few hours afterwards. But a great source of protein. This is your tip number 4. Get the beans in. And we're not talking about... Oscar. Shush. No, it's not playtime. It's sleep time. You know the drill. Right, we'll do it with you sitting there then. That's fine. Get the beans in. You can add these to almost any meal. It's brilliant. You can make kidney bean stews. You can make chilies, 3-bean, 4-bean, 5-bean chilies. So much variation with these. You know, be careful to rinse them first. Soak them if you need to, if they've not come out of a tin. But a brilliant source of protein, brilliant source of fibre. Going to be really, really good for you. And super cheap as well. Nothing fancy, but does what it says on the tin. Right, the last one, tip number 5. Get yourself down to like a Whole Foods place, or as things are at the minute in lockdown, go to an online Whole Foods place. Order yourself some spirulina powder. Gram for gram, this is one of the most nutrient-dense products on the planet. I believe it's like a seaweed or a sea algae. It's fantastic if you try to get the protein up. I think for something like a teaspoon of this powder, which is about 7 grams, 4 grams of that is protein. Now that's really, really high. You're looking at 50-60% of your product being protein, which you don't get from anything else. Maybe if you're a meat eater, you'll find that in some meat, but from a non-meat point of view, spirulina is amazing for you. It's packed with B vitamins as well, and it is one of the most nutrient-dense products on the planet, as I've said. So it's one thing that vegans, vegetarians, meat eaters, whatever you might be, it's a great thing to just add to your food, to sprinkle over your dinners, you know, to add it to your shakes, you know, maybe some greens powder and some spirulina powder. It's brilliant. It's going to up your protein levels, definitely, and it's going to add a lot of vitamins and minerals to your diet. It's going to make you super healthy along with the bargain. The only downside of it is that it's a powder, and okay, 7 grams of this powder, you're going to get 4 grams of protein, but if you wanted to get 10 to 20 grams of protein, you're having a lot of this powder, and that's going to turn, that's going to be quite expensive because you have to buy a lot of it. You're also going to be adding a lot to your meals. It's going to start to flavour your meals, maybe not in the nicest way. So Make sure this goes in maybe a teaspoon to every shake, maybe to your breakfast, to your lunch and your dinner. That way you're going to get, if you add it to 3 meals a day, you've got 12 grams of protein there just for 1 teaspoon with every meal. So that's it. That's my top 5 vegan protein choices. If you haven't already, please go down, like the video, subscribe to the channel. That would be awesome. Get this video out, get sharing this video, get it in front of as many vegans and vegetarians as possible, because I can guarantee 1 or 2 of them 5 protein sources they won't have heard of as being high in protein. So get this in front of as many people as you can. Don't forget, if you haven't already, get the comments down below, because the first 10 people are going to get my plant-based recipe pack. That's over 50 plant-based recipes. They're easier to make than it is easier to say for me on camera. So go down, get your comments in, get that protein pack in your inbox, and I will see you all again in the next video.